Hi there, my name is June and welcome to another video of Learning with Levi. This video will be a tutorial on how we'll name alkanes with more examples. If you haven't watched my first video, I'll link it down below or put it on the top right. Make sure you watch that so this video makes sense. So with this first example, I just copied all the structures multiple times so we can see the number of carbons separately. So if we look at the study aid on the left, the first step is to find the longest continuous chain of carbon atoms and use that as the base name. So if we were to number this this way, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We could number it this way. We could also number it this way. And we could number it this way. And the last way we could number it is this way. Alright, so out of all these, let's focus on letter D. So while this does give us one of the combinations for the longest continuous chain, this does break the second rule of numbering the chain, having it start with the nearest substituent. So if we numbered it like we did in D, the first substituent would be on carbon 7, as opposed to drawing number C, drawing letter C, where the first substituent would be on carbon 2, which is right here. What I want to do is emphasize is that the longest chain isn't always going to be the straight line, kind of like with A and B. You kind of have to work around and maybe you'll find the longest continuous chain. And so what we want to do next is find that the longest chain is 10. And so if we go to the study aid on the right, 10, the prefix for 10 is dec, and since we're dealing with an alkane, the base name is decane. Step 2 for the study aid is to number the longest chain starting with the end nearest the substituent, which we already did. The next step is to name alkyl groups. Now if we move to the right screen, right here is some of the common substituents, alkyl substituents that you will encounter. So as we see on carbon 2 right here, this is a methyl group, which is similar to this one right here. And then you see on carbon 4, we have a isopropyl group, which is right here. It looks like a little Y, and right here is the little Y. So those are the two substituents that we have. And then the last step is to organize multiple groups. So what you want to emphasize here is that it has to be in alphabetical order, and because the isopropyl starts with an I, that comes before an M, and so the way that we write this would be 4 isopropyl to methyl decane. Alright, so we'll go to the second problem. Alright, and so again, we just copy these so we can number these multiple times. So we look in the study aid on the right or on the left. Again, the first step is to find the longest continuous chain of carbons and use that as the base name. Now we could have numbered it this way. 1, 2, 3. We could have numbered it this way, 1, 2, 3. we could have numbered it this way, 1, 2, 3, and we could have numbered it this way, 1, 2, 3. Either way we do this, the longest continuous carbon chain is 3. And if we look to the study aid on the right, the prefix for 3 carbons is prop. We also remember that the first 4 prefixes can be, you can use this study aid right here to help remember the prefixes for the carbons. And so the mnemonic is monkeys eat peeled bananas, and that refers to the first letters of the mnemonic of the first letters of the first 4 prefixes. So the monkey refers to the M for methyl, eat for ethyl, etc., etc. Again, just want to emphasize that any chains that have 5 or more carbon atoms, the inorganic prefixes are used, such as pent, hex, etc. So we have moved on to step 2, and step 2 says to number the longest chain, which we have already done. We've known that it is 3, and again, the prefix for 3 is prop, so it would be propane since we're dealing with an alkane. So the next step is to name the alkyl groups, and if we move again to the screen on the right, the substituent that we have is a methyl. I'll circle these in red. So we have 1 methyl here, right here, this little line right here, as well as 1 methyl right here. So those are the 2 methyl groups that we have on the study aid on the right. And since we have 2 methyls on carbon 2, either way you look at it, the methyl group would be right here for this, as well as right here. For this particular carbon, it would be this methyl right here, as well as this methyl right here. Carbon 2 methyl right here, as well as a methyl right here. And in the last example, methyl right here, as well as a methyl right here. All right. And so the next step that we have is to organize multiple groups. And because all we have is just methyl groups, we just name it accordingly. And so the name for this particular compound would be 2, 2 dimethyl, and again it's dimethyl because you have 2 methyl groups on carbon 2, dimethyl propane. All right. And so we will go to the next example. We'll zoom out just a little bit. All right. So this is the next example that we will do. Again, if we look at the study aid on the left, the first step is to find the longest continuous chain of carbon atoms. So I've already numbered these for us just to make this a little bit faster. And as you can see, the longest chain right now is 6 for letter A, letter B, letter C, and letter D. However, A and B are numbered wrong, or not numbered wrong, but they are wrong in the sense of that they violate the second rule of naming alkanes, which is this little note right here, making sure that the number of substituted carbons is as low as possible. So in example A, we have substituents on carbon 4, which is, I'll circle that in red. We have a substituent on carbon 4 as well as carbon 5. And on on compound B, we also have a substituent on carbon 4 as well as carbon 5. Now if we look at the example C, the substituent is on carbon 2, which is this one right here, as well as carbon 3, which is this right here. Now example D does have a substituent on carbon 3. However, this is wrong in the sense of that it's not the correct way to number it, just because it violates the first rule of having more substituents. This little note right here where I'm hovering over, use the chain that has more substituents on the chain. And so like I said before, with compound C, this has two substituents, 1, 2, versus this compound right here, this whole thing, this is an isopropyl group. So if we go back to the study aid on the right, we can see right here that the longest chain is 6. And the prefix for 6 is hex, and because we are dealing with an alkane, the base name is a hexane. Step 2 of the thing we've already done, number the longest chain. And so the next step is step 3, which is to name alkyl groups. Now again, if we move to the study aid on the right, we can see that the substituent on carbon 2 is a methyl group, which is this right here. It's a methyl group, and it is this right here, as well as carbon 3. Looks like we have an ethyl group. 1 carbon, 2 carbon, ethyl group, 1 carbon, 2 carbon. Okay, and so the last step is to alphabetize the multiple groups. And because E, in terms of ethyl, comes before the M in methyl, the two substituents that we have, ethyl will be written first. And so the way that we name this is 3-ethyl, and that's again because we have a ethyl group on carbon 3, and 2-methyl, again because we have a methyl group on carbon 2, and then we end with the base name, which we previously said was hexane. All right. So the last example that I want to go over is something that you might see on a quiz or an exam. What we'll have is a structure already drawn out, and then they will give you multiple answers to see which one of these is correct. Now, if we go through all the answers one by one, we'll start off with answer C. So the base name for C is heptane, as you can see right here. I'm going to underline it. This is heptane, and we know again from the study aid, heptane is 7 carbons, hept, and so that's how we numbered it here: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And we look at the base name for A and B, that is nonane, and that is right here as well as right here. And then we do know that nonane, NON, that refers to 9 carbons, and because we're dealing with alkanes, that's nonane. So right off the bat, we can tell that heptane is incorrect just because it is the lowest number, or it's a smaller number than the nonane. So we can already cross this one off. All right, and so the next step is to find the longest continuous chain with starting with the end nearest the substituent, making sure that the substituted carbons are as low as possible. Now if we go back to example B right here, we can see that we have a substituent on carbon 4 and carbon 7. So a substituent right here on carbon 4, as well as a substituent on carbon 7. Now if we go to example A, we have a substituent on carbon 3 right here, as well as a substituent on carbon 6. Now if we follow the rule, 3 and 6 is a lowering number than 4 and 7, so we'll have to use this particular numbering. All right. Step 3 is to name the alkyl groups, or the alkyl groups that we have. And again, if we move to the screen on the right, looks like we have methyl groups on here. Methyl groups on carbon 3 right here, as well as a methyl group on carbon 6. And again, the next step is to alphabetize it. the multiple alkyl groups that we have, but because we only have one particular type of group, a methyl group, we don't have to alphabetize the groups. So if we go back to our answers again, that coincides with this one, 3,6 dimethyl, and there's 2 methyls on carbon 3 right here, as well as carbon 6. Dimethyl nonane, and again, nonane is 9. The NON is the prefix for 9 carbons, and if we look right here, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So again, this is probably something that you might see on a quiz or an exam, so just be familiar with this particular type of question. Well, that's the end of the video. Hit that like button, subscribe button, support the channel, and share it with friends who might need some help with organic chemistry. In the next video, we'll be going over how to draw structures when given the alkane name. I'll be putting up more videos on organic chemistry, so comment down below what you'd like to see in the next video, something that you might be having trouble with, or just something that you're curious about. All the social media links will be down below. Any of the study aids that we have shown in here will be also linked down below for 50 cents. So if you find it useful, go ahead and get those study aids to help you with this. And other than that, just remember, you got it, yo.